Okay, so my name is Glenn. Today's quiz called What does the Bible say about Saturn? Now, I do know that now. I know I'm glad that people are not thinking about colonizing the planet Saturn because Saturn's a Jovian planet. It's a gas giant. That's why. But people are thinking about colonizing Saturn's moons, which will be Mimas and then Enceladus and Titan. But the problem is that those moons are so cold. Anyway, I've heard to me, if you want to go to the if you want to go colonize those moons, go ahead. But I'd rather stay here on Earth because I feel very comfortable here on Earth anyway. But anyway, okay. So you can see that the words, well, let me go to this Excel thing. Okay, now the word Saturn in Spanish is Saturno. Okay,
Saturno.
so that's what it is. In French, I'm not sure. I don't know how to pronounce it.
Saturne.
Saturn. Okay, so it's still pronounced the same way as in English. So there might have been a change there. Okay, so it's not mention of a change of Saturn in Spanish and French. Well, here it is in Mandarin. Okay, let me find out how. Okay, let me click on it. So here's the word Saturn in Mandarin. Okay, let me click on this. I'm gonna click on it to show you what it's pronounced.
土星.
Okay, so Tushing. It's how to say the word Saturn in Mandarin. I know I'm probably not saying it correctly, but I think that's what it is. In Mandarin anyway. And here it is in Arabic.
Saharon.
Yeah, Zahel. That's how to say Saturn in Arabic. Okay. And then and here it is in Japanese.
Dose.
Yeah, Delsea. It's how to say Saturn in Japanese. And then the next one, but just in okay, yeah, Korean.
토성.
Yeah, Chosong. It's how to say Saturn in Korean. So okay. Okay, now we can learn. Now let's learn about this planet called Saturn. Okay. Now I know that I heard it's one of my mom. I know it's my mom. And now this is my mom's favorite planet because she likes the rings on it. But let's learn about this planet because I want to. But let's go learn about this planet. Okay. On ICR. Okay. You know why? No, because because if Saturn's billions of years old, it would have been cooled off by now. It would have lost its rings and it would have lost its magnetic field as well. That's why I believe that it's only thousands of years old, but so is the other planets as well. But let's just go learn. But let's read about the solar system Saturn by Jason Lyle. Let's read this so you can learn about the planet Saturn. Okay? Yeah. So, okay. So when people peer into this telescope and see Saturn for the first time, the typical response is, wow, all the other planets appear as simple disk of your surface features, but Saturn's which system rings makes it more like a piece of celestial jewelry composed of trillions of tiny moonlets, particles of water ice. These rings orbit Saturn and give it a stunning three-dimensional appearance, quite different from any other planet. Now, the basic qualities. Saturn is a slightly smaller version than Jupiter in most respects. It's made of hydrogen and helium, gas, and trace amounts of molecules of methane and ammonia, and gets lights of yellow color. As with Jupiter, the colorful clouds obscure the belts, dark colored and zones light colored. However, Saturn's belts and zone so does than Jupiter's. 9 times the size of the Earth in diameter. Saturn's the lowest density of any planet amazingly would actually flow in water. Distance of 890 million miles from the sun. Saturn takes about 29.5 years to complete just one orbit. Now, powerful seams at large that we see on Earth occasionally develop on Saturn's atmosphere and appear by regions within the belts and zones. Although Saturn has no permanent storms like Jupiter's Great Red Spot, it has inherited storms that can last for many months. A great white spot manifests every for 30 years, depending on the planet's northern hemisphere in the summer, and frankly, occur off years as well as it did in 2010. Now, the Lord of the Rings. Even though Jupiter and Uranus and Neptune all their own system of rings, have their own system of rings, Saturn's are far the most impressive. The rings can span 170,000 miles across, and that's then 1 mile thick. For comparison, this is over 1,000 miles thinner than relative thickness of a DVD. The ring's orbit is a plane of Saturn's equator. Fortunately, the planet's rotation axis about 26.7 degrees in relation to planetary orbital plane, which offers a lovely view of the rings. Without its tilt, the rings will always appear edge-on, making them virtually visible. As orbits the sun, Saturn's tilt does not change the perspective of the planets of shafts as seen from various angles. From Earth, it appears that Saturn's tilt gradually moves from 26.7 degrees to negative 6.7 degrees every 29.5 years of Saturn completes its orbit. For this reason, every 15 years, Saturn's equator appears the edge of our viewpoint. This occurs around Saturn's experience of spring and fall or fall equinox. The period of Saturn's equatorial plane intersects the sun. Since Saturn's rings orbit its equator, they too appear nearly edge-on for many months. Around that time, Saturnian equinoxes, or something a pin stuck through the middle of the grape. For the weeks of surrounding the moment of equinox, Saturn's rings are so close to an edge on, okay, that they are hidden, dramatically changing the planet's appearance. The last edge on view occurred in September 2009, and the next one will be in March 2025. Conversely, that the sun's farthest Saturn's equatorial plane during the planet's summer and winter solstices. And we observe Saturn for its northern and southern hemisphere respectively, tip maximally toward us. These are the times we can get a most spectacular view of the rings. Saturn has several different systems of rings that differ in brightness. The three major rings that are visible in the modest are labeled A and B and C rings, and the outermost of these is A, and the outermost is these are B. The middle of it is the brightest. The C ring is the faintest, difficult to see. The high quality telescope, the smallest, those to avoid. The quantity of division goes between A and B rings. From visible to modest, the backyard under the divisions. And then the other small divides also exist, and the 8K gap within the A ring, but is not normally discernible without the most powerful telescopes. For a spacecraft to visit Saturn, Pioneer 11, Voyager 1, Voyager 2, and Cassini. These unnamed probes provide spectacular close-up. These unnamed probes provide to close-up to use the Saturn and its rings and its moons. Pioneer 11 detected the F ring, a narrow filament of icy particles in orbits on the A ring, and contains it's like a stance of a rope. Now the moons. At last count, Saturn has 62 known moons, including the trillions of tiny moonlets comprising its rings. And these moons are tiny and few miles across. Only 13 are larger and 50 miles in diameter, and only 5 are larger than 500 miles in diameter. Titan is the largest, easy to see in telescope or good binoculars. It's a tiny orange star next to a planet. It's a tiny orange star next to a planet. At 3,200 miles in diameter. Titan is the second largest moon in our solar system, behind Jupiter's Ganymede. It's 40% larger than Earth's moon, like Ganymede. Titan is larger than the planet Mercury, and it would be classified as a planet if it orbited the sun directly. Titan is also known is only a known moon with a thick atmosphere. This atmosphere is comprised mainly of hydrogen, but the traces of methane and other hydrocarbons are trace molecules that give rise to Titan's orange color, making it nearly impossible to see any surface features. The existence of methane in Titan's atmosphere is a mystery to those who believe that this moon is billions of years old. Solar ultraviolet radiation from the sun was expected to break down the methane, and the time scale of only a few tens of millions of years. Another of Saturn's moons, Mimas, orbits close to the planet. It's easy to recognize that it has it's crater at one side, very named Herschel, and it's 1/3 the diameter of Mimas, and gives a strong appearance, a bit like the Dead Star from the Star Wars movies. In contrast to Saturn's moon, Enceladus is white as snow and only has small craters. The Cassini spacecraft declares plumes of icy material being injected geysers and near this like a moon south pole, indicating that Enceladus is anemic in internal heat. This is problematic to those who believe that solar system is billions of years old because of the moon were really that old, and heat should have escaped long ago. Like Jupiter's moon Io, Enceladus does not experience enough gravitational tugging to regenerate its internal heat. Saturn is the planet known to have Trojan moons. Moons that share a common orbit at precisely the same speed as that thus never collide. Any planetary moon system is super located as any other Argentinian planets, is 60 degrees ahead of the large moon, orbit at 60 degrees behind respectively. The larger moon, smaller moon is form a continual triangle. So Saturn's moons Titus should orbit at Telesto, the Titus by 60 degrees, and Collapso, which trails Titus by 60 degrees. Also, Dion shares its build, Antennae, which leads, and Polydictis, which follows. The moons of Saturn are partly responsible for the complex structure of its rings. Small gravitational fields of these moons can perturb ring particles in different orbits in several ways. The moon Mimas, responsible for the Cassini division. Mimas orbits outside of the main rings, but in a 1-2 renaissance of any orbit that might wander into a Cassini division. Is Mimas orbits once every time that Cassini moonlets orbits twice. Any hypothetical moonlets will rapidly get a gravitational tug at the same point in their orbit, eventually pulling them out and after leaving any division, relatively empty moonlets. Incate gap is caused by the moon Pain. Pain orbits within the incate gap. Gravitational defects any moonlets that wander too close to it. Prometheus and Pandora, while the moons are responsible for the F ring. Prometheus inside the F ring of orbits just outside. Use of the shepherd moons of the effect of the moons affects the F ring. Several of the shepherd's moons have been discovered in our solar system. Janus and Amethyst are two transiting moons of Saturn. President Storm is a extending riddle. Amethyst goes approximately 272 miles in diameter, and Janus is 111 miles in diameter. Both have near circular orbits around its Saturn's equator. Amethyst orbits orbits a distance of 94,089 miles, while Janus orbits the satellite equator distance of 94,120 miles. Since Amethyst is 31 miles closer to the planet, but since Amethyst is an inside track, 30 seconds less. If its two moons are placed at the starting line, Amethyst will have a lead. Eventually, have Jupiter, Janus, about 4 years. The riddle comes under concern of what happens. Amethyst is about past Janus in that 4 year. Recall, between the two orbits of these moons is only 31 miles. But that is less than diameter of either moon. So how does Amethyst is able to pass Janus without collision? These moons have been observed for many decades, and the crash has yet to happen. This answer is riddle relates of relation of Earth's moon. Recall tidal forces and pull forward by Earth's moon giving it energy. The extreme causes the moon move to a higher distance orbit by about 1.5 inches every year. Similarly, effect right between Janus and Prometheus, and as Prometheus produces Janus from behind. The gravity of Janus pulls forward on Prometheus, giving Prometheus extra energy causes to move to a higher orbit, while the gravity of Prometheus pulls backward on Janus, causing Janus to lose energy and drop into a low orbit. And the two moons are collision swiping orbits. Of the swiping genus, its inside track begins orbiting faster than Ividius, which is the slower outside track. This separation continuously increases until 4 years later. The genesis is nearly ready of Ividius. That time, that mutual gravity of two moons causes to switch back into their original orbits. What an amazing solar system that the Lord has created. Almost every day, new scientific discovery gives us a little glimpse into the mind of God, and Saturn is certainly a wonderful example of his creative genius. Okay, so that's what Saturn is about, okay? Okay, so that's what Saturn is. Now I'll show you how to get saved according to the Bible. Okay, so the point of evolution is to damn souls to hell, and the point of any false religion is. Okay, sorry, I did not mean false religion. Sorry, I meant to say is the point of the flat Earth is to damn souls to hell as well. And we go to heaven to believe all Lord Jesus Christ. Salvation is by faith alone, grace and grace alone. And once you're saved by Jesus, was the truth you need. You can't lose your salvation and be easy to please Him. Is that salvation is easy, or do you just believe in Jesus Christ for salvation? And I'll talk about next video is it's called Saturn's Rings Proof of Young Saturn. I'll try that next video. Okay, let's go right now. So thank you for watching this video. Rejoice. Bye.